everyone. I'm Omkar Chaudhary, and welcome to the Biz Talks, wherein we are in conversation with tycoons of today. So, this is my journey where I'm discussing and having conversation with a lot of entrepreneurs and trying to understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur and trying to find out the idea which has the potential to grow up into a great business and earn a great revenue. Also, being an entrepreneur is defined. Entrepreneurship is a journey into an unknown. And definitely, you need a mentor in order for someone to guide you and show you the path. There are different businesses in the market, and there are different entrepreneurs that are different tactics to grow those different businesses. So today we have got Amit Varna from Youth Startup Network discussing with us the all highlights of entrepreneurship and mentorship. So welcome, Amit.
Thank you. Thank you, Omkar, and thank you, the whole team, for Biz Talks, for hosting me today. And I'm really excited to talk to each one of you.
Wonderful. Also, we have a sassy, classy host with me, Zavia Dalal. Hey, hi, Zavia.
Hi Omkar, hello Amit. It is my pleasure to be a part of this podcast and being able to question you guys about the entrepreneurship. And since Amit, you are also a keen astronomy enthusiast and we have been a part of the astronomy business. There are a lot many questions that that I want to ask you because I myself am into astronomy. So I hope it would be a great session.
Love
Definitely,
to answer all
definitely.
of them. Great.
Wonderful. So, Amit, I really want to ask you. There's one thought that is really triggering me in my mind that what are the changes that you accelerate into a certain business model? So, if the person has an idea, he has created a business model. So, what are the changes as a mentor that you accelerate that drives their business?
All right. So, Omkar, the first thing I want to clear for everyone out there is that each idea is different and each person behind the idea is different. So, there is no one solution that fits all. But at the same time, when we start mentoring anybody who has an idea, especially young minds, the first step is to open up their minds to the possibilities that are around them and in the world, because a lot of times it is our mindset that stops us from taking that next step in the business. You may have an idea, you have developed it, you may prototype it, and you may also launch it. But what keeps the idea growing is the founder's ability to think beyond what is immediately available to them. So I think the key point that we focus on is that the mindset of the founder has to be such that they are able to think beyond, think large, and think beyond just the immediate problems, because a solution centric mind is what will be able to grow the business.
Wonderful. So, I think I can really take out this most important point that there are different possibilities, and one should be kind enough to understand and take a look at the broader spectrum which is out there. Right.
Absolutely, Omkar. I think one thing that I keep on telling myself and everybody out there, that entrepreneurship is the most humbling experience that you can take in your life. So we all look at billion-dollar investments and valuations, but the truth of the matter is that entrepreneurship is the most humbling experience that you can have in this world, because it tells you that you are nothing and you know nothing. Whatever you think about yourself is all airs, because the world out there is really practical and really cruel about how the business world goes. So till the time you get to know that you don't know so much, that humbles you. And that is what I think is the most important learning that any entrepreneur carries through that journey.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is the very first time I'm listening about such a kind of experience that entrepreneurship is quite humbling. And today you gave me the reason for that, and I definitely resonate with you. Amit, you're also part, or rather, you have started this business, a startup called as Youth Startup Network. Could you please elaborate more about how is it helping the youth out there?
Sure. Youth Startup Network was formed with the aim of bringing entrepreneurship ecosystem around the student community. I remember my days as a student. I always wanted to start up. Starting from I think high school, but all through my college days and my corporate experience of 11 years, I could not. I could not start up just because that ecosystem was not around me, and there were so many questions that our society, family, friends put in terms of responsibilities that you tend to sort of have a lot of courage to actually start up. And while I did start up eventually, and this is my second venture actually, but at the same time, I knew how difficult it was, and I wanted to make sure that I have an ecosystem for students as young as 10 years old, all the way to 25 years old, where we give them that mentoring, we give them that platform, we give them that conditioning, as well as the skills training to be an entrepreneur. So that's how at Youth Startup Network, we are looking to help each one out there who is looking to have an idea, who's looking to develop something, and is an innovator, is a thinker, or a problem solver. There is one go-to platform that we want to create worldwide. That's Youth Startup Network.
Wonderful. So there's no age restriction. So age won't be a limit, or that won't be restricting an idea to get flourished.
Absolutely, I think age has nothing to do with it. There are numerous stories that get highlighted because in India there are very few right now. So if let's say a young boy who's 11 or 12 years old starts up on an innovation or an product or a service, you will find that in the newspaper because that's rare. It's a news. So that is what is more important, that there are more such cases, there are more such kids out there who are able to develop their ideas. And that is why we start as young as 10 years old uh, at Youth Startup Network.
Wonderful. And looking at the expanse of the entrepreneurship, there's one thing that really excites me to ask. Back there in the 90s, when we speak about entrepreneurship, and today in 2020, we speak about entrepreneurship, what are the changes? What are the significant and the relevant changes that you've been seeing in the entrepreneurial success?
All right. So I think entrepreneurs have not changed. The metal that is needed then, that was needed then, and that is needed now is same. But I think a lot of other things around us have changed. The economy has changed, the information, the knowledge, the systems, everything else has changed. Consumer behavior has changed drastically. In 90s, if we remember, you had to settle up a brand. It was all about mass media, and now it is all about social media. So there is a sea change in the way internet has changed, mobile telephony has changed, the way we can do business. And I think at that point of time when we were in the 90s, it was all about dealing with regulations and rules and going about licenses. Now it is more about getting out there and getting a voice heard. And you still have to do those licenses, that's fine. But at the same time, you have a lot more opportunity to be heard. So I think there's a drastic change in the way you can build a team, you can scale up. You can be sitting here in India with your startup and talking to somebody as a team member in US or Europe or Africa or Brazil or anywhere else. That's what internet has brought to us.
Right.
So definitely, I think Reliance Jio has paved the way for the greater transformations out there. Zabia, what's your take on
Absolutely.
this?
Well, according to me, from what I have seen, like digitization has definitely made traditional markets and lose their glory that they had before. So yeah, I mean, definitely what Sir said is pretty true. Like with the digitization, a lot of things in the traditional marketing scenario has changed. Questionnaire. So when we talk about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, we are all aware of an entrepreneur, but we do not know what an entrepreneur is. So I would like to know, I would like our audience to know about these two terms, and if you can, please, thank you.
Sure. I think that is one area that is ignored, underserved, especially in India. That all big companies that we talk about, all big brands that we have grown up with, they have been successes not just because of that one founder. And in a business, it is never about that one person. It's all about the team.
Right.
So those people who have given everything as part of a team and have been behind the curtain, as you say, because they were never the founders, those are the real people who actually get things done. And that's true for any business. So those people are actually leaders. Those people are people who take decisions. They solve ground problems. And these are the people who I call intrapreneurs, or you can also call them as corporate entrepreneurs, because these are the people who actually develop the exact thing that is needed for that business. So for that matter, entrepreneurship is something that we must celebrate in India. We must bring out a sea change in the way we work as corporate, so that we celebrate our corporate entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs and bring a foster a change in the culture itself, because a lot of these businesses, especially the small and medium enterprises, are totally founder centric, unfortunately. And you know they have been termed simply because of that lala companies a lot of times, and
Right.
that is what we need to change. That's an organizational shift that happens and brings about entrepreneurs even in SMEs, and that's what I think is very important, and something which is close to my heart as well.
Right, right. So, like, you have worked in the corporate for so many years. So, obviously, like, your take on entrepreneurs does make a lot of sense even to the people who are listening to this. Because when we talk about, businesses, and when we talk about entrepreneurship, it is always about starting a business. But we kind of forget about what goes on behind the scenes into a business, and what happens, like how many people are actually the base, the founders of this business, like the base of that business, who actually help the CEO to bring their business forward and go ahead with it. So yeah, so that brings back to me that brings another question in my mind, like when you pitch your business to an investor or someone, so what according to you is a good pitch? How do you pitch your business, or how do you pitch your business plan to your investor, or how do you sell your products when you're pitching your sales? So how do you do that, sir?
All right. Another great question, very close to my heart. See, pitching is something that we have not really understood what it is. It is something that
Right,
is all across, all around us. Today when you talk to anybody, even when you two friends talk to each other, and you want something getting done out of your friend, you are actually pitching. So
right,
it's something which is subconsciously there. We have not consciously looked at it, and that's something again I talk very passionately about. And in my workshops, which I do with these young budding entrepreneurs, we focus a lot on pitching, because once you understand that it is a process, it is a system, you can learn how to be more convincing, how to be somebody who gets a yes when they ask people. It's very powerful.
right,
So that is something that we focus on, and the pitch is basically when you bring out the core value of what you do. So I'm just taking an example of a business right now, but this could be anything. So the core value of a business comes out in that pitch. The key takeaways or USPs, or there are many jargons. You can call it value proposition as well. Comes
right,
out in that pitch. Why you are doing this? Why this
right,
business must be there in the pitch, and how it is benefiting to the end user or the audience. Now, for a matter, an investor is a very different entity than a customer, than to your distributor. So the pitch
right.
has to change for all three of them. So you change
Yes,
your pitch accordingly, keeping in mind your audience, and then there must be a call to action, because I've given you something in a short span of time, which is my business. So I want you to now act. So there has to be a call to action. So very
right.
simply, it's like a 4 to 5 step process. And once we understand that process, I think it can do wonders, not just for businesses, but for people in general.
Right. So, like, our audience, we have a lot of people who are into sales and marketing. Even me and Omkar, we are
Yeah.
planning to get into marketing field in future. So, please help us out. Like, if we want to sell our product to a customer, or if we are representing a company to a company, and we want to collaborate our products with ourselves, what is the mantra for it, if I put it in a if I
Okay,
sum it up?
sure.
Also
Sure.
adding a small layer to
Yeah,
this
yes,
particular
Omkar.
question before Amit says. So basically, you have been guiding all through the way to the young entrepreneurs out there. So what are the myths that you have found out? Because I think it is somewhere in the relevance of the question that you will be answering to us. There are certain myths and there are certain preconceived notions that we guys already have in our mind. So that needs to be bursted when we are looking forward to the new strategies. So it's like a jar needs to be emptied in order to put something into it and then fill it up. So we really need to know that what are the things that we need to take it out, what are the things that we need to unlearn. Yeah, please go ahead.
Got it. One by one. So my first thing would be that if you're looking to be in marketing, something that would be essence of the pitch would be to know your user, because marketing cannot happen until unless you know your user. So once you know your user, you must know what is the language tone that the user wants to hear your message in. For example, there's no point going to hinterland, rural India, and talking, or selling a jingle which is in English or is an accent that they would never understand. So it is very important to know your user. But having said that, as a pitch, what I would feel is that, let's say you're selling a product and you want to market a product. Marketing is all about creating demand. It is about demand generation rather than on-field selling. So if I separate sales and marketing, marketing would be to generate a demand or a recall about your brand. And for that matter, you must bring out the story behind what has been the product. So there is always an emotive element or an emotional element to your product. And even if you're selling, as boring as, let's say, a computer server, you could say that, what would I do emotionally when I sell a computer server? But trust me, there is always an emotional story that you must find out. And once you have that, that becomes your key essence to marketing. And then you layer it with the benefits that you want the end user to gain out of your brand, or the value proposition as we call it. And if you are able to communicate just these 2 points along with addressing the pain area of the user. So if I have a trouble with my servers and you can talk to me in the language I understand, saying that your servers are, outdated or whatever, and there's a story why we did this, and these are the value proposition, you're doing your job. So it's very critical to have the benefit, the story, as well as the pain area in place. And then more or less you're sorted in your marketing. And coming to Omkar, your question, as you rightly said, there is a lot of myth around, starting up, and we all come with certain notions in our head. Especially when I talk about young people, uh, the young people have a lot of issue with respect to influences that they see online. So on social media, we see a lot happening. On every platform, we have success that is being celebrated. But nobody is talking about failure. Nobody is talking about all the things that I had to do to be a success. And nobody is talking about that still now more than 90% startups fail. So that is something that must be out there, available to people, and that is something that we want to bring in when we mentor somebody. That we don't want to kill enthusiasm, but we want them to be in a practical head. It's all good to say I have 1,000 likes on my Instagram account. That doesn't give you business. So that is something that you must understand when you are looking to be an entrepreneur.
Right, right. I think that was quite necessary and great that you just opened our eyes for that.
So yeah, so that's what, like, people should know about the failure stories as well, so that they can, learn from it and try not to make the same mistakes again. So, coming back to the questionnaire, you have worked with the education business as well. You have for like more than 5 years. So I would like to know that what is the one thing that you did not like about the education business? Because people always keep on telling that education business is profitable. You get this, if you get into this, you'll earn a lot. Aisa, vaisa. There are a lot of myths. So, what is the one thing that you do not like about the education business?
All right, great, interesting question. And by the way, I spent around now 14 years in the education business, not just
Okay.
5.
All right. All right.
And
Yeah.
all these
Sorry.
years, there are so many things I have not liked about the education business. But if I have to just tell you one, I would say that unfortunately, what we have done is we have created a lot of farce and I would say a mask around education in India. Uh,
Hmm.
it is a business. At the end of the day,
Right.
anything that we do to make money is a business. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, in India, we have termed our education business as a social enterprise, which is not supposed to make money. So these
Okay.
schools and colleges and universities all operate as NGOs and societies, and that's by law. So they are stuck in a scenario where they can't make money and they can't live without making money. So what
Right.
has happened is that at the face of it, it is a social enterprise, but at the back of it, it is now completely a for-profit business, and that is something that it's very difficult to sort of understand until unless you have worked in the business.
Yeah.
And my experience has told me that this is one key learning that any budding entrepreneur who wants to come into the education business must know.
Right.
While I'm at it, I must tell you one more thing, and that is that if you are looking to enter into the education business, there is one thing that you must understand, and that is you must have patience. Because education as a business is not for people who are here for quick money. It is
Hmm.
not for people who think that they can scale up and build a brand in few days or maybe in a year or so, and it is not for people who feel that they will come in, pump in the money, and get the work done. Education is something which is very close to each and everybody's heart. A household spends a lot of money on education, and a stat says that's roughly around 18% of a person's income
Yes.
as
Huh.
a family income is spent on education in India.
Yes.
So it is not something that you can fly by as an entrepreneur. So you must
Right.
have patience and lots of patience. You have to build slowly, give actual real value on the ground to the student, and then deal with all the other issues that are around education business. So education selling, by the way, is I think one of the toughest jobs, because these sales cycles are extraordinarily long. You may end up having a sales cycle of 10 months to get through your product in a school or a college,
Right.
just because the way they operate. And that's very different from, let's say, somebody doing an FMCG business or now an online business where you can
Hmm.
spend dollars and get customers. So
Right.
it's an entirely different ball game, and I think the keyword would be patience. Exponentially increased.
Right, right. So our viewers who are into the education business and who think that we will do something, we'll take tuitions or whatever education business you want to enter into, the key word is patience, and you have to have patience if you want to succeed in this business. So coming back to
Absolutely.
our questions, Amit. You were also a CEO of Astro Tourism. You worked for more than 10 years in the astronomy business. Now, a lot of people do not know about this business, and they do not know what goes behind the scenes in this kind of a business, because whenever we see astronomy, we are like, okay, unhone jaake photograph खींच लिए, या they're going to some really radical place and sitting under the stars taking clicking pictures and earning money out of it. But what exactly happens behind the scenes when it comes to astronomy and the business behind it?
Right. See, astronomy is a tough business because it's a niche that is totally underserved and at the same
Yeah.
time totally unheard of in India. and I had the privilege of building a brand around that niche. And I was very lucky. I was an entrepreneur at that point of time,
Right.
building the business. And what I feel is that you have to look at it as core science, because astronomy has some challenges. One of them is
Right.
that people do not understand what it is. They confuse it with
Right.
astrology. And the second
Yes.
is that it is core STEM expertise areas. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics are core takeaways
Right.
out of astronomy,
Out of
and
it. Yeah.
that is what you need to develop. So as an education business in astronomy, it is all about driving the right content and scientifically right content to your end user,
Hmm.
and
Right.
making it in a simple fashion, something that you could do and understand, rather than saying that I'll tell you a great documentary or I'll show you a book and I'll make you read something or watch a video. Rather than that, that's very boring and that's available online. So our challenge
Right.
was to make hands-on activities which you could develop, which we developed in house, and you could do as a student. So that's, I think, was a key challenge for us in astronomy, and that's where all the blood and sweat went. On the other hand, tourism was something which was more, I would say, entertaining and joyful, because
Yeah.
that gave a chance, not just for people but for us as well, to travel. And
Right.
I had some great moments. I was the first one to lead India's only, as of now, an eclipse cruise across Kochi to Maldives back in 2011. And before that, a year before that, we also did a chartered flight for
Right.
eclipse viewing. And then I had the opportunity to meet great astronauts when we used to go to NASA USA. And so those are the few highlights, and I still love my moment when I actually sat down across a table and had long chat with astronaut Sunita Williams while she was in
Yeah.
India. So that was something I still remember very sort of vividly in my head.
Right. Awesome. That's just great. So when we talk about the astronomy business, it's like you've been into it with certain people or certain protests or certain societies that will bring a big question mark to all these things. So how do these businesses manage when such things happen?
Yeah, so you're right in a way that it is always a question mark, and you have to sort of rationalize with an
Right.
unrational mind. So that's a tough job. But at the same time, I do feel that the only way out of it is to actually show people what science does to people. So
Hmm.
when we actually talk about researching something, discovering something, inventing something, the byproduct of that research, not just the immediate result, but the byproduct, the spin-offs that come out of it,
Right.
are something that have changed our lives. Just to give you an example, we all know about baby diapers, right? And baby diapers are a result of space science research. So
Right.
it was not meant for babies, it was meant for astronauts when they were
Okay.
going up in the rockets. And
Huh.
so researchers at NASA developed those substances which could absorb adults urination when they would wear a diaper in a rocket. And then it
Right.
was a spin-off that we had baby diapers. So imagine a world without baby diapers, and then you you can understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that is so true. And but that when you talk about things that we use on a daily basis, it's a different thing. But when we talk about moon landings, or when we talk about sending our rockets to the moon or to Mars, and to to take pictures and to know the surfaces of those planets, and yeah, so when we talk about that, we like when we talk about those things, and then there are societies that say that what, moon landing was a sham, it's not real. Or people saying that earth is flat, there is a flat earth society. So like when it comes to all those things, what are your thoughts about those things? Because scientifically speaking, calling such accomplishments a sham is like a big needle to the heart kind of scenario. So yeah, I would like to know your thoughts about that.
The first thing that I think all scientists and all practitioners of science would agree that it is easy to logically explain something, argue and debate,
Hmm.
whereas it is very tough to tell an illogical mind about logic. So
Right.
the first thing I would say is that don't worry too much about them, because everybody has an opinion and it not necessarily affects us. We are out here to do our work, and that is what we should focus on. And that is the end result that we want to achieve, is something that is important. And I think that's not just for science or astronomy, that is for business.
Right.
When I started my business, when I was starting huge startup network as well, people would tell me that that's a ridiculous idea, that nobody needs that. The government of India has a startup mission. Why you are going into something that the
Right.
government is doing? But I know what is missing there, and I know what I can provide as a value, and I have my vision and my end result to achieve. So I am focusing on that. And same is for any entrepreneur out there. They are building a solution to a problem they feel is important. So if
Right.
I have a solution, I have a vision. Let anybody say whatever they want to say. Let them criticize. It's their time wastage, not mine. I would rather spend
Right.
my time on something which is more fruitful.
True that. Definitely. I completely agree with this. Now, coming on to the conclusive question of this session, was what would you like our viewers to know about astronomy, business, and entrepreneurship? One view that you will like to give to our
Okay. So for astronomy business, think STEM, and there are numerous solutions possible. There are numerous educational aspects that you can solve, and the world is now your market. So STEM education is a very big area worldwide. So you can actually focus on that. Astronomy education becomes a part of STEM education. And the
right.
other thing is that now India is looking to privatize the space sector, and that makes a lot more opportunities available for anybody who's here, looking to solve really space science related problems. So
Right.
from launching to satellite making to lot many things are now available because Indian space sector is opening up. So that's
Right.
great news for all those entrepreneurs. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think the single most important point, if I had to tell anybody, would be that have the rights, have a convincing solution to the problem that you're solving, and stick by it. Very
Right.
recently I was in a chat with a big startup founder, and his name is Deep Bajaj. So he told me that how he decides is he takes 1,000 days for any idea
Okay.
and sticks with it for 1,000 days. So 1,000 days means you're giving your 3 years to that business
Right.
at least. So
Exactly.
if you're not sure that you can give that much amount of time, if you're not sure that this is something that you really want to do, I would say don't think of it as an entrepreneurial venture. Think of it as a gig. Think of it as something that you're doing temporarily. There's nothing wrong.
Right.
You may decide to, just today start a coaching program, and that's all right. And you would give value. That's again all right. But it is very important to have the right placement in your head as to what you're doing. And once
Right.
this is sorted, I feel everything else is easier.
Awesome. That's true, and I hope that our viewers can take a lot of ideas and a lot of learnings from this session. I hereby conclude this session, and I thank you, Amit sir, to come and speak with us regarding your journey and about Youth Startup Network. People who want an investor or are interested in knowing how the entrepreneurship journey works, please go and check out his website. That is Youth Startup Network. I hope so. Please go and check check him out, and please tell us how you feel about our podcast, and let us know in the comment section. And thank you so much to our viewers, and thank you so much, Amit sir. It was a great session.
Great, great. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you. And so I had great time and a great conversation. And I wish all the best to the podcast. I hope it gets thousands and tens and lakhs of viewers as it grows. And with that note, again, thank you to all the listeners and to you guys. All the best.